Okay, so what we're going to be doing, what we did previously in Access is we learned how to create a database. So now we created the database. We've got our tables with our fields and our data types defined. And so now what we're going to do is that we're going to see how we can create forms. And forms are going to be the way which that we use to input information into the database. Okay, so I'm going to open the Sosa Corp example that we had worked on previously. And what we had is that we've got, again, our database. We've got our tables defined. And now what we're going to do is we're going to create a form. We're going to see how we can create a form to be able to input data. Okay. Remember that we can input data directly here into the database. So if we click any of the tables, for example, the employee table, we can fill in information there, but that's not very user friendly. We don't want the user to have to go to something that looks like Excel to fill in information. We want something a little bit more, ideally a little bit more interactive. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over here to the Create tab. And here are the different things that we can create. Okay. Here are the different things that we can create. What we're going to focus on is the block that's in the middle that has forms. There's many ways to do or to create things here in Access. Access provides us some tools and some wizards to create things, and you can use them if you want to. The way I'm going to be doing it here is assuming that we don't have those tools, and they're just going to be playing with the basic tools. I would be very cautious in using wizards. The Access has a lot of wizards to help you out, help you do things. I would just recommend using wizards in some situations, not always, because sometimes the wizards try to help you out, like many things in Microsoft, and end up not helping you out or messing other things up. So just be cautious. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to create a blank form. Okay. So we're up here and we're creating a blank form. Remember that what I'm doing right here, you're going to have 4 resources. It's going to be this video, it's going to be the 2021 videos, 2020 videos, and it's also the YouTube video that explains this from the tutorial. They've got many resources for that. And I'm going to upload the examples, the Microsoft Access examples to Blackboard later today, this one and the previous. And so notice what happens here. We created a new form, and basically what appears is this blank slate. It's a blank slate that we've got. Okay. Does somebody remember when we were working in tables? Remember that we had different, that I mentioned that Access shows us different views of things? Does somebody remember what those views were? Good. Very good. There's going to be a view that's basically the view that the user is going to be seeing. Okay. That's kind of the view we're going to be seeing to see how the form, the query, the table, or whatever is going to be seen by the user. Then there's going to be the design. The design views are what we're going to be using to create whatever we're creating. By default, we're always going to be seeing a view that isn't the design view. So what we're seeing there is not the design view. This is how the form is going to look to the user. Notice that the form right now, by default, I'm going to close this window here. We don't need it. Is just a blank slate. So literally, the things that are here on the bottom, for example, this bar that's here on the bottom, that's going to appear to the user. The information that's here on top to close it, that's also going to appear. This record selector as well. That's the way the form is going to look to the user. We want to modify this to make it.
That's like designing a page, like a web page, like
Yeah.
third page, like that.
Yeah, it's very similar. It's very similar. Actually, what I'm going to walk through right now is that okay, so we've got the form here, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be switching to the design view. There's actually for the form, there's actually three views. It's actually the form view. The form view is the one that the user is going to see. The layout view is just kind of so we can see how everything is going to be positioned. And then there's the design view, which is this one. And the design view is basically going to show us a grid. It's a blank canvas where we're going to put everything we want in the form. Right now, I'm not going to be focusing very much on how to make the form pretty. I'm going to leave that to your creativity. There's a bunch of things you can do. You can add images, you can add color, you can add a lot of things. That's going to be up in the lab exercises. You don't need to do that. But in your application project, I am going to be expecting you to be making things pretty. Okay, but I'll leave that. I'll leave that to you guys. So the first thing we notice here is that we've got the form. Now, one thing that's going to be happening here, if I click, notice that right now there's a mark here. I'm going to select the form, and then I'm going to select here this box, and I'm going to go to form to properties. These are the properties of the form. Oh, sorry. It's up here. Any object you have in here in Access, if you click on the object, in this case, I'm clicking here on the black box, which means I'm selecting the whole form. If I click on the object, I can go to its properties. In properties. You can click in properties or form properties. And it's going to show the same thing because I'm selecting the form. Okay. So for example, here's a list of all of the properties I can modify in the form if I want. All of the things I can change. These are mostly things that have to do with how the form looks. So one thing that I'm going to do is that there is notice, you do notice at the bottom, I'm going to go to the notice here on the bottom that there's a record selectors. I don't want those to appear because I don't want the user to be clicking these and moving around so if I go here to properties, I can remove those if I want. There's a part here that says record selectors. I'm going to click on no. Okay. I don't want the navigation buttons either. I can modify any things here in the form that I want. Anything that I want. Okay. There's different categories. These are all the categories. The first category has to do with format, then the other has to do with data. Event has to do with things that are happening and other stuff. Okay. So, oh, by the way, I'm going to do a save. We haven't saved the form, so I'm going to call this one employee. This is going to be a form for the employees. I'm actually going to change the name. It's still open. Let me close it. I'm going to change the name to add. It's too loud, isn't it? To add employee form. This is a form that's going to be used to add an employee. Notice that the bars disappeared here on the bottom. So that's what I just did with the selector. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is that we're going to relate this form, and then we're going to go here to data. The record source is going to be the employee table. Okay. The source of information or the part of the database that this form is going to be linked to is the employee table. That means that whatever I'm going to do with this form is going to be, in this case, stored in the employee table. I'm going to also mark here where it says data entry. Notice that by default it said no. That means that if the default is no, I'm not going to be able to add reference. Okay. These are very simple things for you guys to take note, because sometimes you're designing some things and maybe you're going to forget clicking some of these boxes, and some things aren't going to work. And so the selector there is for yes. Okay. And we're going to close this. I'm going to save it also, and then I'm going to click here that I'm going to say add existing fields. The table that's related is the employee table, so I can add any of those fields to the form. I can add them one by one, or I can add them as a group. So for example, I can grab employee social security number. I'm just going to drag it over here, and it's automatically going to appear here as a box, and I can move it around. I'm going to delete this. I can add all of them if I want. And so I can add all of them, and all of the fields are going to appear there. Now, right now, they're just bunched up there. I can organize them however I want. And again, I'm going to leave that to you guys. So this is just a text field. So I'm going to jump this over here. Then we're going to have the employee name. We can make these larger or smaller as we wish. Instead, this is the name of the field, so I can say employee social security number. Yes. Yes. You know, it's moving everything. I don't want it to move everything. Oh, okay. So I'm just going to select the top one, and that just moves the one I want to move. And so over here, I'm going to change this as well to employee name. Then we've got the address. I'll make this larger. Then we've got the salary. Leave that here. The only thing we're doing is kind of organizing things here. Then we've got the gender. The fields that I'm modifying, these are text fields. These don't affect the data. The ones that are white, those are ones that affect the data. Got the birth date.
We've got if the employee is a manager or not. I'm gonna move this over here on top. I want this one on top. And if it's a manager, I want the manager social security number. Then we're gonna have the department ID and the employee supervisor. Manager SSN, this is the department. And the supervisor. Okay, so now we have all of that information there, and if we go over here to the form view, that's the way our form is going to look.
Okay, so now we can organize this however we want. That's the way the form is gonna look. By default, the record that it's showing, it's a record 0, meaning it's a new record.
For example, here we can note some of the fields, like the ones we marked as Boolean. Yes,
So, let's say, and I know that there's a format to writing an address. But what if everyone writes the address differently? Like maybe somebody adds the zip code, maybe somebody writes the street name differently. Doesn't that create a conflict?
That's a good observation, Daniel. You have to decide in the case of your problem. If you need the information to be separate, let's say that you need the address because you're mailing things. Then maybe the address shouldn't be just one field. The address should be separated into atomic values. If the address is just going to be information that you need to store, but you're not necessarily going to be using it for something, then we can leave it like this. Any of the situations is correct. It's depending on how you're going to use it. Okay? But your observation is right. Maybe somebody can write here address 45 Elm Street or something like that, or something that doesn't exist. If we're not going to be using that information, it's fine. But if we need this information for something, maybe we need to separate. Yes.
So it's something like missing something like a street,
Number, street, city, postal code, we would need to separate that.
If you live in a house,
Right now, for this example, the social prop, the address is just one big thing. But if this were something, I don't know, if in the restaurant, you were in charge of sending the food instead of a third party, well, you would need to keep the address a separate values. But yeah, depending on the situation.
notice, for example, that in the case of the gender, the options that I showed appear here on the list. The problem here is that we don't oh. Yeah.
Okay. So what we need to do now is to add some functionality so we can save this information in the database. Right now, the information is just there, but we want to verify how we're going to be saving the information and we're not, we don't want to happen what just happened right now, that when I tried to close the form, it said, wait a minute, you haven't saved the record. The record isn't going to be saved, so we need to add that. Okay, so how do we add that? I'm going to close the property sheet. Over here on top, there's a bunch of resources we can add to the form. The resources go from a simple text box. It's not interactive, it's just simple text. We could add buttons, we could add files, we could add links. We can add documents, we can add images. We can add objects from other softwares.
And right now what we're going to do is that we're going to add the functionality of a button to be able to save things or save the information of this form. Now what we're going to add, we're going to add a button that helps us save the record. So we're going to grab this one here. This is the icon for a button. We're just going to drag it over here and place it. This does open a wizard and we can take advantage of it actually. Oh. Yes, we are recording. And there's certain record operations that I can do here. So we're going to say that we want form operations, sorry, record operations, and we're going to want to save the record. Okay. We can actually put a picture on the button. We could load a picture that we have and it's going to appear here on the button. Right now, I'm just going to put a text that says save record. Let's say save employee record. This is going to be the name of the object. We can leave that as it is and we'll finish. And we've got the save employee record button here. We can make it larger, can do whatever we want. We're going to click its properties as well. And here are the different properties that's going to be associated to. So what we want is we don't only want the button to save the record, we also want it to close the form. Okay, do both things at the same time. So we have, again, here are the properties of the element. There is a section here called event, which has to do with actions that are going to be occurring. So on click, there's already a macro. Right now, we're asking this button to save a record. Microsoft Access is creating code for us as a macro. So we don't have to do any coding. It's creating code for us. However, that code that's created for us, we can modify it if we want. So we go over here to the macro that's already created. And here's the code that's being generated automatically by Access. And we can modify this if we wish. If we run the command, then the command is going to be save record. Okay. And we can add new actions that we want here on the bottom. Any new action that we want the button to do at the same time, we can add it. So I'm going to add a new action that is.
So we want to modify,
We have to modify or add modify the code. If the wizard, when we use the wizard created the code for us. We could do the code if we wanted to. For some basic operations, it's enough to let the code be created as a template, and then we can add things to the code as we wish. We're going to look for one that says close window. It's going to be close window for a form. The form that we're talking about is the add employee form. Do we want to prompt on save? Yes, we want it to prompt on save. And we're going to save this and close the oops. Clicked on something I shouldn't have. Close the macro and save the changes. Okay. So we've added the button. Let's see what happens now. I'm going to go to the form view. I'm going to add a record named 2222. The employee name is going to be named Jorge Sosa Lopez. Address, I am obviously not going to type in my real address here. Zip code, none of your business. Let's say I'm not a manager. Let's say that salary is 10 pesos. It's very slow. Gender male, birth date, it's automatically, birth date, I'm gonna put the format and just modify it. It's 2/22/19. That is the real birthday. Department, right now we don't have any department saved, I think. So I'm just gonna leave that as department 0, supervisor 0, and I'm gonna click save employee record. There's a thing here that's happening. Notice that I have the department table. And the department table right now doesn't have anything. So I'm just gonna add a department here, department name, engineering. Department manager is, I'm gonna say 34. I'm gonna say department manager right now is 0. We need it over here in the employee table as well. Okay, I'm just gonna save here. Add it over here first to the employee table. I'm gonna add an employee just as a reference here. Employee number 1, address XXX, salary 10, gender male, employee date, let's just leave that, manager. D, security number. Okay. Okay, we have a problem because right now we have a relationship here. The relationship, we have let me go over here to the database, to the database tools, relationships. Right now we have the relationship between the department and the manager of the department. I'm going to remove this relationship right now for the moment, just so I can add an employee as a template. Employee name 1, employee address XXX, salary 10. Gender. And over here on the department table, I'm going to be able to add, I'm going to add a few departments, department 1000, engineering, manager, I'm going to say manager 10. I'm going to add another department here, business, manager is 11, and humanities is 12. Just to add some fields there. And over here on the employee table, I'm gonna add a birth date, I'm gonna add whatever. It's not a manager, department ID, I'm gonna say this is department 1000. I think that is valid, right? Department 1000. And that's it. I'm going to add another record here. I'm just going to add the employee records that I added here on the department, which is 10, 12, and 10, 11, and 12. Add employee 10, address, whatever, salary 1000, female, birth date, whatever. I'm going to say it's a manager, and department ID. I'm going to say that she is from department 1000. Okay. Did I duplicate any values there? Okay. Says I have duplicate data. Why do I have duplicate data here? Okay, give me a moment here. Okay, so what we're showing here is a completed version of the form. We've added the button here at the bottom. The button here at the bottom, if we go, the only thing that this button does on click is that it's going to save the record. Every time we go to or add a record, it's going to save it. And we've added another button here on top, and we've added a little icon here. We added an image, as we mentioned that we could. And what this button is going to do is it's going to close close the window. And adding that button is exactly the same as we did before. The image is just literally an image that we can insert. Okay, we can browse for images that we would like to add. Images here. We just grab any image we want and add it there. And we can obviously change the format and the colors. Once again, if I run this or go to the form view, I can add other employees. I'm going to add a employee 2000. That's going to be or male Asgard. He has no money. He's, I don't know, part of Department 30. No. Excuse me? Oh, in this example, which is a complete example, there's already information filled in the departments. The department and the employee also has values filled in already. Okay, so that's the information that's being grabbed grabbed from the form.
The 1013, it's like what?
It's yeah, it's like your ID. If you go here to the employees, these are the employee numbers that are being added, and that's what's being added here on the form.
Will be it's I mean, can repeat.
Yeah, because in this example of the social corp company, that is your supervisor social security number. So many employees can have many employees can have the same supervisor. And then we add the employee, and then it gives us a blank slate. And then if we go over here to the employee table, the new employee has been added, and we can close the form. Okay.